Today, we are analyzing a powerful conversation between Jay Shetty and James Sexton, a high-stakes divorce lawyer who has overseen the end of over 1,000 marriages. But he's not here to talk about how to get divorced, he's here to tell us how to stay married. They dive deep into the root causes of separation, the psychology of intimacy, and the practical contracts we should all be making with our partners. James drops a bombshell early on: legally speaking, getting married might actually be an act of negligence. Full interview link is available in the description. Let's dive in. We all know the statistic: half of all marriages end in divorce. But hearing a lawyer explain why that statistic is terrifying puts it into a new perspective. James argues that if any other activity had this failure rate, we'd consider it reckless.
Creates the legal supposition that marriage is a negligent activity. You know, in the law, we have this idea of negligence and recklessness. So negligence is a failure to perceive a substantial but high likelihood of harm. And recklessness is a conscious disregard for a substantial and unjustifiable risk of harm. And you could make the argument that if something 50% or more of the time,
it's a harsh reality check. We enter marriage assuming we are the exception to the rule, but without a plan to mitigate the reckless risk of heartbreak, we are just gambling with our future happiness. So why do we do it? James suggests we become obsessed with the event of the wedding rather than the skill of being married. We spend months planning a party, but zero time planning how to handle conflict.
But you know, saying I do isn't saying I can. Like at best, it's saying I'll try.
Oof.
And we just don't say that out loud. And I think we might be poorer for it. I think it would be better if we had a more honest and realistic view of marriage, because there's nothing more fun than getting married, but being married is much more challenging. And we spend so much.
Saying I do isn't saying I can. That is the key insight. The vow is a promise of intent, not a proof of capability. We need to treat marriage like a job we need to be qualified for, not just a finish line we cross. When we think of divorce, we think of big explosions, affairs, financial ruin, or addiction. But James reveals that those are just symptoms. The real disease is much quieter and much deadlier.
I think the number one marriage killer is disconnection. I think we fall in love incredibly fast, and we fall out of love, and we fall into those big marriage killers much more slowly, or really kind of the way that people go bankrupt, very slowly and then all at once. You know, and
disconnection is the silent killer. It's the conversations you don't have, the vulnerability you hold back. By the time the big event happens, like cheating, the marriage had likely already died from 1,000 small moments of distance. James tells a heartbreaking story about a client who knew her marriage was over not because of a fight, but because of breakfast cereal. It perfectly illustrates the concept of being seen.
Would do it. And she said, like, it just always made me feel so like he sees me, he knows what I need, he tries to get ahead of it. She said, and one day, the granola ran out. And I thought, oh, that's strange. And she's like, I didn't get my own, because I thought, oh, no, maybe he's just didn't notice, you know. And a couple more days went by, and granola never got replaced. And she said, and I thought, oh, okay, this is over. Like, it's starting to move in the wrong direction.
It wasn't about the granola. It was about the loss of anticipation. When you stop anticipating your partner's needs, you stop seeing them. And when someone feels unseen in a marriage, they eventually look for someone else who will see them. So how do we stop the granola from running out? James suggests a practical, prenup for the heart, a weekly ritual that forces connection and honest feedback before resentment builds up.
And I would even create a structure for it. I would say that every week I want to share with you, and I want you to share with me something I did this week that made you feel loved. then I want you to share with me something that made you feel less loved or less seen, or where I got it wrong. Like, I want you to tell me where I got it wrong, bravely.
This requires thick skin, but it saves marriages. Instead of letting a grievance sit for 10 years until it explodes in divorce court, you address it on Tuesday. It turns loving into an active, weekly verb. They also tackle the taboo subject of physical intimacy. James is blunt: if you take sex and touch out of a marriage, you are often left with just a roommateship.
An issue. Sex is the glue. Like, it's the glue. Like, sex is incredibly important to people. It's the difference between having a roommate and having a spouse. Like, there's a romantic element to it. There's a sexual element to it. There's a physical, not even purely sexual. There's a physical element to it. I can't tell you how many.
It's not just about the act itself, it's about the connection it fosters. As James says later in the interview, if you are going to rob someone of their solitude, you owe them companionship, and intimacy is a vital part of that deal. When connection fails and divorce happens, logic goes out the window. James shares a story about a multi-million-dollar divorce that stalled over a kitchen appliance, proving that in the end, it's all about ego.
Oh, divorce is like that. I had a case, a multi-million-dollar marital estate, probably worth $30-40 million. The settlement fell apart because of a toaster oven, a $48 toaster oven. Because it was the one issue they couldn't agree on, is division of personal property.
God.
And I just remember being in the room and thinking, I could, on my phone right now with Prime Delivery, have every person in this room get one of this.
They spent thousands in legal fees fighting over a $48 item. Why? Because they wanted to win. In marriage and divorce, the need to be right is the most expensive emotion you can have. Finally, James offers a solution to our pettiness. Before he was a lawyer, he volunteered in hospice care. He believes that if we understood death better, we would be much better at life and love.
We would have to spend 6 months or so volunteering for hospice.
Mm-hmm.
I think we shield our society from death. And I think it infects the way we look at life. It morphs in unhealthy ways the way we view death. And it causes us to focus on a lot of the wrong things.
When you face the end, you realize that the toaster oven doesn't matter. The ego doesn't matter. All that matters is who you loved and who loved you back. James Sexton's advice cuts through the romance and gets straight to the reality. First, disconnection is the enemy. It starts slowly, so you must catch it early. Second, small things matter. The granola, the weekly check-ins, these are the maintenance that keeps the engine running. And third, drop the ego. Whether you are married or divorcing, the need to win will cost you everything. If you had to have a weekly check-in with your partner right now, what is one thing you'd be scared to hear? Let me know in the comments below. If you found value in this breakdown, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into the best conversations on the internet. Thanks for watching.